There are places the maps do not name, islands that sit shrouded in fog, where the ocean seems reluctant to let ships approach. One such place lies somewhere in the northern seas, between gray cliffs and endless mist. Locals whisper of it but never point to it. They call it simply the Forbidden Island. No official record acknowledges its existence. No ferries dock there. But fishermen tell stories of strange shapes on the horizon, of laughter carried on the wind, children's laughter, where no children should be. The first time I heard of the island, I thought it was nothing but folklore, until I saw it myself. On a journey through the northern archipelago, I caught sight of a dark silhouette in the fog. Not rock, not forest, something else. As my boat drew closer, I saw them. Playgrounds, rusted swings swaying in the wind, broken slides, their metal frames twisted like skeletons, roundabouts turning slowly, though no one pushed them. They stood scattered across the shoreline like monuments to forgotten childhoods. The island smelled of rust and salt. The air was heavy, oppressive, as though the place itself did not want me there. I docked the boat on a shore where the sand was black, coarse, mixed with fragments of iron. And there, rising above the dunes, was the first playground. A swing set stood crooked, its chains corroded and orange with rust. One swing moved gently in the wind. But there was no wind. The sea was calm, the air still, and yet the swing creaked as if an invisible child was still seated there. I walked deeper inland. The grass was high, unkempt, brittle, and dry. Through it, half-buried structures revealed themselves. A carousel with broken wooden horses. A slide tilted on its side, pointing not to the ground but to the sky. And in the distance, I saw more. Many more. The entire island was covered in playgrounds. Some intact, others collapsed, their remains devoured by moss and time. The sound of metal groaning filled the air, though nothing around me moved. And underneath it all, faintly, almost too faint to believe, I heard it. Laughter. Not the joyous laughter of children at play, but something hollow, distant, echoing in ways no voice should. It drifted through the rust, through the broken swings and shattered slides. And though I stood alone, I knew I was being watched. I pressed further inland, the crunch of black sand and brittle grass beneath my boots. The deeper I went, the more impossible it became to ignore the sheer scale of the place. Playgrounds covered the island like a graveyard of forgotten joy. There were slides taller than houses, their ladders bent and broken, the metal slick with corrosion. There were roundabouts, frozen mid-spin, painted in peeling reds and yellows, their colors faded but still clinging to life. And then there were the seesaws, each one tilted downward on one side, as though something heavy sat at the far end. Something invisible. The air had changed. It no longer smelled only of rust and salt. There was another scent now. Sweet, rotten, like fruit, left too long in the sun. I reached a small clearing where the grass was pressed flat, trampled in patterns that made no sense. Circles, spirals, child-sized footprints too fresh to belong to anyone long dead. At the center of the clearing, an old merry-go-round stood, its wooden horses cracked and eyeless. And yet it moved, slowly, creaking as if pushed by hands I could not see. I raised my camera, the lens trembling in my grip. But the moment I pressed the shutter, the sound cut through the air. Children, laughing. It was everywhere. Above me, around me, inside me. The sound of dozens, no, hundreds, of voices, overlapping, shrill, and playful. But there were no children here, only the rust, only the empty swings. The laughter rose into a chorus before it snapped into silence. So sudden and violent it left my ears ringing. The quiet was worse than the noise. It was absolute. And in that silence, I became aware of another sound. Creak, creak, creak. The swing set behind me was moving again, this time faster. Not gently swaying, but pumping, as though someone was pushing with all their might. The chains rattled, the frame groaned, and though the swing seat was empty, the imprint of small hands appeared on the rusted chains, gripping them tight. I stumbled backward, my breath shallow, my pulse racing. Every instinct told me to run, but the island didn't want me to leave. Ahead, beyond a row of collapsed jungle gyms, I saw structures that weren't playgrounds. Buildings. Small houses, rotting, their roofs caved in, their windows shattered. I moved toward them, each step heavy, as though the ground itself resisted me. The doors were ajar, swinging slightly though the air was still. Inside, I found toys scattered across the floor, wooden blocks, cracked dolls, tiny shoes covered in moss, and carved into the walls, scratched deep into the rotting wood, was a single word, repeated over and over again. Play. My throat tightened as the sound returned. Not laughter this time. Not voices, but the unmistakable rhythm of children's feet running across the floors, upstairs, down the hall, through the walls. I was not alone. I left the houses behind, their broken windows still whispering with the phantom sound of children's feet. The path grew narrower, overgrown with weeds and twisted roots. Branches clawed at my jacket, as if the forest itself tried to hold me back. And then the trees opened. What lay beyond was no playground. It was a monument, a sprawling expanse of rusted steel and shattered wood, rising high above the tree line. Slides stacked upon slides, twisted together like bones. Swings the size of gallows, their chains swaying though there was no wind. A single carousel stood at the center, but it was enormous. A wheel of painted horses blackened by rot, each one frozen mid-gallop. It was a playground built not for children, but for giants. Or for gods. The scale was wrong. The proportions stretched. Alien. I felt small in its presence, like an insect trespassing on a shrine. The ground was littered with toys, half buried in the soil. Dolls with eyeless faces, their porcelain cracked. Wooden animals with splintered legs. And bones. Tiny bones, scattered among the rust. I knelt, my hand trembling as I brushed dirt away from one fragment. It was no toy. It was a child's rib. The carousel groaned. Its horses shifted slightly, as though turning their heads toward me. The chains of the swings rattled. The seesaws creaked. And then, as if obeying some silent signal, the entire playground began to move. Swings pumping furiously, roundabouts spinning until the rust screamed. Slides trembling, their metal ladders rattling in unison. It was not abandoned. It was alive. I stumbled back, my breath tearing out of me in panicked gasps. The sound returned, louder than ever before. Children, laughing, screaming, singing. Their voices overlapped, hundreds of them, circling me like a storm. Some high and sharp, others low and distorted, as though coming from throats not made for laughter. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it made no difference. The sound was inside me. My chest vibrated with it. My bones hummed. And then, through the chaos, a single voice broke free. Stay! The word was long, drawn out, spoken in a chorus of tones that didn't belong to one child, but to many, layered, unnatural. Stay and play. The ground beneath me shifted. The soil cracked, splitting open like a mouth. And within it, I saw the shapes of buried swings, seesaws, entire playgrounds still waiting, hidden below the surface like teeth in a jaw. This wasn't a graveyard. It was a hive. The playgrounds weren't ruins. They were offerings. And I was standing in the heart of their altar. I ran. Branches whipped at my face, the earth beneath me uneven and damp. But the island seemed to stretch, to twist itself, so that every path led back to the same place. The giant playground loomed behind me no matter which direction I turned. It was as though the island itself had swallowed me whole. The laughter followed. Not just behind me, above, below, inside the very air. It echoed from the rust, from the swings that clanged violently, from the seesaws that pounded the ground with invisible weight. And threaded through it all that same voice. Stay. Stay and play. I stumbled into another clearing, gasping, my lungs burning. Before me stood a single swing set. 2 seats, both moving, but this time, I saw them. Figures. Faint. Translucent. Children. Their outlines blurred, as though made of smoke, but their faces, empty. Where eyes should be, there was only darkness. One of them turned its head toward me. The swing creaked. And then, with a sound that made my blood run cold, it spoke. You came to us. The ground shifted again, splitting in long cracks. From those cracks rose more playgrounds, dragging themselves out of the earth like corpses from graves. Slides taller than towers. Roundabouts spinning on their own. Climbing frames twisting into shapes no human hands could have built. I tried to scream, but the air was heavy, thick, choking me. My vision blurred. The laughter turned into screams, then into something worse, singing. A broken nursery rhyme, sung in 100 overlapping voices. Ring around the rosy. Pockets full of. The words dissolved into shrieks, metal grinding, chains snapping. I fell to my knees, and then, through the chaos, I saw it. The shoreline. My boat. I staggered forward, the earth trembling underfoot as though the island tried to pull me back. Every step was agony, every breath a fight. The swings howled behind me. The carousel screamed like a dying animal. And the children, those hollow, faceless children, ran alongside me in the trees, keeping pace, reaching out their small, rust-stained hands. I burst through the final line of dead grass and tumbled onto the black sand beach. The boat was there, rocking gently in the water, waiting. I threw myself inside, untied the rope with shaking fingers, and pushed off. The oars sliced through the waves, my arms burning with terror and desperation. Only when the island began to fade in the mist did I dare to look back. The playground stood silent now, the swings still, the slides empty, the carousel frozen. But at the edge of the shore, lining the black sand in rows, were the children. Hundreds of them, faceless, pale, watching. And as the fog swallowed them, I heard it one last time, a whisper carried across the water, cold as the grave. You will return. The sea closed around me, and the island was gone. But I know it isn't finished with me, because at night, when I close my eyes, I hear it again. The creak of swings, the laughter of children, the call of rust. And deep in my bones, I know the truth. No one leaves the Forbidden Island. Not really.